and take it into the house. If she had no need for grandfather, she would ask the servant to return the hat to him, and he would ride off. Suppose he had other women, but can you imagine poor Mama doing something like that, even to somebody that harmed her? Well, when Grandma Annie decided it was time for Grandpa to leave, she would take his hat, carry it to the front porch, and politely but personally put it on the lowest step. That was the signal for the poor man to depart. That's what I call a Southern belle. She was beautiful and she was strong. Just think, Renata, throwing out her husband in his hat in front of God and everybody. Well, after a while, she couldn't run the plantation anymore. Some kind of law about husbands and property.
Is not a child, you know, Sarah. Poor mother. She loved him very much. I think she still loves him. Have you seen the wedding picture? Ask her to show you her album when you visit her next time. She wore a blue gown. It was my father's favorite color. Blue as our sky and our sea.
Renata, you dear, would you make some coffee? Well, maybe later. Thank you, Renata. Renata's been with us 2 years. Ever since she arrived in Beirut, actually. I don't know what it would be like without her, with the children and the cooking. She's a student at the university, you see. Now, your mother, Mona, wouldn't she mind about the wedding gown?
Oh, now she won't be disturbed at all. She always knew he would get into trouble. No, she doesn't blame him. Why should she? Same politics. Are you joking, Sarah? You know my mother. Do you think anything heavier than clothes and household finances has ever entered that pretty head of hers? She feels as sorry for the poor people my father fought for as those bureaucratic imbeciles you and your husband have to entertain. And she even feels sorry for our so-called leaders. Leaders. They bleed the people and talk all the time. And what do they do about the Palestinians? Nothing. They do nothing. And there's my husband, betraying us, joining them. I tell you, Sarah, it hurts. I wouldn't have left him if he had mistresses or if he was sick, for anything but this. Getting a job with the embassy and telling me to forget about the revolution. God, Sarah, it hurts. Other women? Oh, of course I knew he had a say. I didn't mind. I can't afford to worry about such stuff. I have my work. My mother said something very amusing to me when I was 16, 2 years after he was hanged. We were speaking of him, and she was telling me how they had loved each other and how he was the handsomest man she had ever seen. And then she said, "You know, Muna, I wish your father had used his looks, especially those big dark eyes of his. Remember them? They were so kind and dark and sensuous. I wish he used them to seduce women rather than to seduce people to fight for his politics and to give him money and those awful guns. Did you know, Muna, that the big chest I got with my wedding trousseau, the cedar ones from my aunt, did you know that was full of guns and bullets? If he had gone off with other women, he would still be alive. That is what she said. But she has always been a child. Father thought of her as a young child bride who must never be forced to grow up. She's a child saint. I wonder why her God didn't let her grow old with her husband. What a God, allowing a good man to be killed. What I won't forget is the sight of him that last day in prison, and then they hanged him. You know, I don't look like either of them. He used to call me his little chipmunk. I think they always wondered how two such good-looking people could produce such a funny-faced daughter. My mother says that I startle her quite often. She sees my handsome father's eyes in my plain, funny face. She would call me the chipmunk with the Valentino eyes. I had been told to stay in my room the day they hanged him. My relatives had been staying with us since the trial had begun. All I remember about them was that they had the tightest mouths and most disapproving eyes one could imagine. They didn't approve of Father, and they considered my mother a silly woman for having let him continue in his craziness. I think that's what they called his work. I was 14 and had been told not to leave my room. I climbed out the window. I don't think the door was locked. I just didn't want to meet anyone. I went to the square, straight to the apartment house which had the tables on the pavement. I went up the dark stairway. I didn't dare switch on the light. I chose that building because it was right across from the scaffold. I was lucky. The apartment on the second floor was empty. I found out later that the whole family had gone to be closer to the scaffold. It was a rickety-looking thing. Terrible, but sort of pathetic. I don't know why. Maybe the cross looked the same. Who knows? It was quite a show. Public hangings were becoming a bit rare in the world. I broke into the apartment. Oh yes, I know how to do things like that. My father used me to run errands and leave messages in lost houses. I was quite good. My mother? Oh, she knew. She said nothing. I went to the window. It was one of our usual harsh, bright afternoons, July 12th. I wanted to hear thunder and watch the rain coming down. I thought it might make that hard feeling in me go away, just that tense feeling one has before a thunderstorm. I saw the official-looking people coming out towards the scaffold. Someone read something. I couldn't hear anything, but I could see a man testing the news. Then they brought my father, and as he was climbing the steps, I heard a man below me in the restaurant ordering coffee. Oh, everyone was feeling political that day. Even the act of ordering coffee became a political act. Hey you, I heard him. He sounded like a very fat man. Get me another cup of coffee and don't forget the sugar. Make it strong and sweet. I'm not going into mourning for some fool who makes trouble and blames us, the poor people. I didn't ask anyone to fight for. Put the hood over my father's head. Well, I will say one thing for the human race, Sarah, or at least for the people in the square. There was a kind of silence, even from the coffee shop, as they hanged my father, right there in our Lebanese sunshine, right there in front of God and everybody.